The worst sitting senator put out a statement yesterday that is pretty multifaceted in what it means for people that have had a hard time during this pandemic, and is really a poster child for why I don't support voting for members of a party just because they have a D next to their name. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, on Friday voiced firm opposition to providing $2,000 stimulus checks, putting the moderate lawmaker at odds with President-elect Joe Biden, congressional Democrats, and even some Republicans. Absolutely not. No, Manchin told the Washington Post in an interview published Friday. Getting people vaccinated, that's job number one. How is the money that we invest now going to help us best to get jobs back and get people employed? And I can't tell you that sending another check out is going to do that to a person that's already got a check, he said. Manchin in a tweet later said, if a new round of checks go out, they should be targeted to ensure they go to those in need. The COVID-19 relief bill recently signed into law delivered $600 checks to Americans with individual incomes at $75,000 or below. There was a last-second push by President Trump, joined by Democrats and some Republicans, to raise the amount to $2,000. Such legislation was approved by the House but was blocked by Senate Republicans. So let's start with part number one of why what Manchin said is really just ridiculous. Um, $600 is effective depending on who it's distributed to and where they live. So, for example, as a person who lives in California, which is one of the more expensive states, I don't know anyone who can pay their rent for a month with 600. It's always 1,000 or more. Again, that's an anecdote and I'm aware of it, but the point I'm making is there are some states where a certain amount of money might not be helpful. But if you boost that to 2,000 added with the 600, which would be, you know, the 2,000's over three times the size of the 600, you would be more likely to cover the basic expenses of people. Again, without going into what specifically which states would have the best bets and which ones wouldn't, because that's not the point here. The point I'm making is that there's certain places that people live that 600 doesn't do anything for, other than, I guess, buy them food for a couple of months, which, again, it helps, but it still does not assist them in a very essential thing of being able to afford where they live. Um, Now let's go to the other part of this story that makes what he said just crazy and proof of why I'm so done with politics to an extent. Warnock and Ossoff, the two Democratic candidates for the Senate in Georgia, both campaigned on getting Americans $2,000 stimulus checks. Oh, don't you worry your pretty little head. Just vote for the Democrats and they'll get you these checks, because their idea, or what they were trying to sell to people, was that if you put 50 Democrats and you have the Senate split evenly, you can have Harris as the VP be the 51st vote for whatever legislation they want to pass. And again, that in its concept works, but it sounds a lot more appealing because a lot of people don't pay attention to Senate votes, to politics, and they don't know that there are these worthless politicians like Manchin, like Sinema, like Doug Jones, who's on his way out. Thank you, Alabama. Although you did get rid of a civil rights lawyer for a football coach, so maybe I should retract that thank you. But you have these people who are Democrats that don't always vote with their party, even on the most essential of issues. And this causes this theory that if you just put enough Democrats in there, they'll be able to pass things to become very unpredictable and for it to be a lot less reliable. So people voted for these Democrats. They're going to have 51 votes because Manchin is him and Harris would make up the last two of that 50, and 51 rather, the tie-breaking vote. But because Manchin refuses to acquiesce to this thing, they're not only not going to be able to pass the $2,000 checks unless they get some Republicans to come over, the same Republicans that they demonized for their positions on the virus. but they're also likely going to say, well, we don't have the votes right now, so I guess we'll just have to wait until the 2022 midterms. So they're going to stretch out giving you $2,000, which I'm sorry, I don't know anyone who's not going to spend all of that over the course of a year, uh, to another election cycle where they're going to red scare you again. Oh, if you just vote for the Democrats this time and give us even more seats, then we'll be able to pass this thing that we should have been able to pass by having all of our members vote for it. And it's like, Manchin, the reason I despise him so much is because I've never seen a politician who is able to spit in the face of his own party repeatedly and just get off scot-free. People talk about how Barr was lawless, corrupt, even before he became Trump's attorney general. Manchin voted for him. People talked about how Kavanaugh was going to repeal Roe versus Wade. Manchin voted for him. People talked about how just all of these different Trump nominees were bad. Manchin voted for them. People wanted, Green New Deal. He voted against it. Like, I've never seen a politician who is just so actively and ardently antagonistic to what the base of his party wants. And this isn't even like a big, like, you saw some Republicans support this. This is about giving people relief after months of having nothing. And he goes, well, we gave them 600, so piss off. We helped you buy. And the worst part is he's going to run again. He got reelected in 2018. He's going to run again in 2024. And this won't get brought up. None of those votes I just mentioned will get discussed because people have the attention span of gnats, and they never make a politician, even one as slimy as Manchin, who spits in their face over and over again, suffer. Yeah, his name will trend on Twitter for a day. Yeah, people will say, oh my God, I can't believe this is a Democrat. But give it a month or two. They'll act like it didn't even happen. How many people do you see still talking about Kavanaugh? Remember when that happened, the sky was falling. Oh my God, Manchin voted for him. Oh, he got reelected. Nobody cares. I mean, this should tell you how much American politicians just don't give a damn, because if the Democrats were worth the piss, just as a collective in the Senate, they would make Manchin's career there a living hell. They would say, listen, we're not going to work with you or talk to you ever again if you don't pass this money. These people can't afford to live off of $600 for God knows how many months. But they won't do anything because they're useless. And they're taken care of. And this is their friend. The same friend that stabs them in the back every time they want to do something that supports their causes or views. Even something as simple as giving people a couple of thousands of dollars as they're getting thrown off in the record levels of unemployment. Like, this is literally a Twilight Zone comment by him. I can't tell you that sending another check out is going to do that to a person that's already got a check. I know someone whose rent is $2,000 a month. So because this person has the $600 check, oh, don't worry, you're taken care of now. We made sure you could pay a quarter of your rent, and that means you're well off now. Thank you, Senator. And people always try to spin this story about how with politicians you can't do things to them. And I've never believed that. Politicians can put pressure on other politicians. You've seen that happen before. And people can. If every day people called Manchin's office demanding for him to pass the stimulus check, he would do it. If every day the Senate Democrats said, listen, we will not support you or do anything with you if you don't vote this one way on this bill, it's that important, he would do it. Because he would have people saying, this little stupid, weird, antagonistic thing you have is not going to work this time. But because people have small attention spans and they vote for people just because they have a goddamn D next to their name, he'll get away with it. And it's really pathetic, and it just shows you why the two-party system in the U.S. is about as useful as a screen door in a submarine.